Hey guys, welcome again to Sage FC, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to defend in FC26. As we all know, defending in this game is extremely difficult because they buffed up the dribbling and now the players can change direction very quickly, so it's a bit harder for the defenders to catch up. So all your defensive experience from FC25 does not translate to this new FC26. So I took some time out to actually master how to defend in FC26. So I'll be running you through the best settings to use and also what to do in game to stop conceding those easy goals. So guys, if you're new to the channel, make sure you smash the subscribe button down below, and also if you want to buy cheap FC26 coin, make sure you check out whatsgaming.net. It's a safe site where you can purchase cheap FC26 coin, and if you use my code SAGEFC you get a 10% discount on your purchase. The links in the description. So guys, I'll be breaking down the tutorial into an 8-point tip, so every point has a role to play to improve your defending overall. So number one is don't spam the stand tackles. I know you might be tempted to use a stand tackle whenever you feel like you're in range, but this year the stand tackle are very costly because once you do it, the animation takes so much time, and if you mistime it, they just dribble past you and get an easy chance at goal. So you want to reduce the frequency at which you use the stand tackle to only when you are certain and when you are very close to the opponent or when the opponent takes a heavy touch, because timing the stand tackle is very important. So what you should do instead of using the stand tackle too much is to try and use the jockey, which I'll talk more about later in the video. Try and use the jockey button to stay in position and also try and track the runs. Only use the stand tackle when you are close enough, like you see me do in some of these clips here. And for number two, use the speed jockey and sprinting. I know a lot of people tell you to just use the normal jockey and the speed jockey, but what most people do not mention is sprinting. Sprinting is very important this year, especially when you are covering those attackers. You can't be jockeying when they are running behind your defensive line. If not, if they play a true pass, it will beat you every time. So what you want to try and do is, once your opponent attacker is trying to sprint into your defense, you should select your defender and start sprinting in the same direction of the attacker before he even gets to that defensive line. So you should be sprinting and switching between jockeying. If you don't know how to do the speed jockey, you have to hold down your L2 and your sprint button and then use your left analog to position your defender. So that should be only done when you're already backed in your box and you're trying to defend the spaces, not when there's an open counter attack or there's an obvious player making a run into the defense. So always try and know the balance between when you are to jockey and when you are to sprint. And remember, like I said earlier, if they are sprinting into your defensive line, you can't just stand there jockeying. You have to sprint with that attacker. Just hold your sprint button and run back. So to be able to do this, you have to anticipate the movement and also switch quickly. Further into the video, I'll give you a tip of how to switch quickly when I talk about right stick switching. So for now, let's go to number three. Number three is to start the press high up in the pitch. You don't want to start defending when they are already in your box. If your opponent is building up in the middle, always try and engage your CDMs to try and cut the passing lane and start the press. Or if your attackers are available, try and select them and bring them back to put pressure on the ball holder, and then with that pressure it makes your opponent not have much time on the ball to do whatever he wants and force him into making a decision, which works in your favor, because the best way to defend is to control what your opponent should do. You should force him to make decisions quickly, because when they have too much time on the ball, you see this year the dribbling is OP, so when they have too much time on the ball, they can easily just pick your defense attack. So always start your pressing high up and engage both your attackers, your midfielders before you have to move your back four. So in number four is know when to use the second man press. The second man press is very important this year because the defending is bad. Basically, I won't even lie, there's no sugarcoating it. The defending is ridiculously bad. So the only way to compensate for that is to know when to use your second man press. Like I do here, you see, I always, once I'm backed up in my box, I usually switch to my CB and then use my CDMs or my CMs to second man press, always keep the pressure on them so they won't see an easy pass to make. So when they finally make the pass, I'm in position with my CB, and of course sometimes they might intercept the pass if you are pressing the second man. Also, when they take the ball out wide, you don't want to just go and engage them with your CB. You can just run back with your CB while you're using your second man press to call your fullback to cover that guy. Most time they are going to try and cut back, and if the touch is heavy, you can quickly switch and win the ball like you see me do here. So always prioritize using second man press, and don't use second man press for your CB. A free tip is try not to use the second man press for your CB. Use the second man press for both your CMs, your CDMs, or your fullback, or any other person you want to apply pressure. But your CBs are your last defensive line, so you should always leave them free and you should be controlling them most of the times, especially when they are already in your box. So for the right stick switching this year, firstly we need to talk about the settings. The settings is just as important as knowing how to use it, because this year some of the settings are not as effective as they were last year. So when you go to your controller settings, for auto switching, I advise using air ball and loose ball, because last year I was using only air balls, but this year sometimes they don't even assist at all on the loose balls. So just put it on air ball and loose ball. That's basically the best for that. Then for auto switching move assistance, leave this in none, because you want to have full control of your player immediately you switch to him. So no AI interference, nothing whatsoever. So as soon as you switch to a player, you get full control of the player immediately. Then for right stick switching, I'm going to tell you something I've never done before. I'm using adaptive this year. There's a reason for that. I've always been a fan of classic, but this year I realized the need for adaptive. What the adaptive switching does is that if you hold the right stick when you're switching longer, it takes the cursor further, so you can easily switch from a striker straight to a CB depending on how long you hold it. So before now you didn't really need to do that because the defenders are very responsive, so you don't need to make such huge switch to your defensive line from the middle. But this year you have to be controlling your CBs mostly, because there's a lot of dangerous runs and they can easily dribble past your midfielders, those including your DM and your CMs. So sometimes when you see that, oh, you're already pressing high up with your CMs and they've gotten past them, you might want to switch to your CB immediately, and the cursor will be jumping to either your CDM or jumping to maybe your CM. It gets a little messed up. No matter how far the cursor is, you can easily switch to your CB immediately and start shaping your defensive line to block that run inside. If you see my defense here, that's what I've been doing, especially when they back me up in the box. All I have to do is switch with the adaptive straight to my CB, and then I second man press with my CMs or my DM, whatever formation you're using, and to keep the pressure. And what I do with my CB, which is the player I'm controlling, I try to match the movement of his striker in the box, so that when he eventually passes to the striker, I'm already there to take the ball or at least give him a tough time. So for this year, I'll advise you use adaptive, but if you can't, you can use the classic or the player rotation. But to me, the best is the adaptive, and I'll advise you try it out. Just try it out and let me know what you think. Then for right stick switching reference, I use ball relative, of course. Then for right stick switching sensitivity, leave this in 2. You don't want it to be overly sensitive. Then for next player switching, classic is better. I know some people tell you use goal side or closest to the ball. Sometimes they are not reliable. Sometimes the player you need to switch to who can stop that attack is very far from the ball, because most times I think where the mistake is we always view the danger at the point where it is. Ultimately, you have to realize that your opponent is trying to score you and your goalpost is way at the other side. So sometimes if you lost the battle in the middle, you don't need to still try and be using your CM to mark and intercept when you see you're already out of position. You've already lost that battle there. Why not focus on using your CB to make sure, oh, he doesn't get this ball to this striker, or that player does not run through my defensive line and get an easy through pass to score. So when you're using closer to the ball, that limits your switching a lot. So just leave this on classic and use the adaptive switching. Those two together are a killer combination. Then for reaction time calibration, last year I left this off, but this year this is going to be on because it actually has its uses. And also turn the reaction time calibration sensitivity to 9 or 8. I already ran through the best controller settings for FC26 in my previous video, so if you want to watch that video, you can click on the icon on top showing right now. That already has the best controller settings, so you can go through that. Then for player lock, that doesn't really affect defending all that well, so you can leave this on for those that use player lock. So back to the right stick switching. Once you get these settings down, the only thing you need to master is knowing which player you need to switch to and work on how quickly you switch. Once you recognize danger, check for the most available player, the most closest player, or the most useful player at that point, because sometimes your CB is always your go-to guy, especially when they've beaten your fullback or they've beaten your midfielder. If they're attacking from the flank, if they're beating your fullback, switch to your CB and try and see if you can cut the passing lane or wait for him to come a bit closer and then engage him, but do not be too quick to rush out of position. Also remember that keeping defensive shape is very important, because once you're in your defensive shape, it's harder for your opponent to break you. So that being said, this takes us down to number 6. So for number 6, we have track runs and also track free players in your box. When I talk about runs, is maybe on a counter attack scenario where there's an attacker running into your box. Like I said earlier, you have to sprint and track that run. You don't need to be jockeying. This is the thing, you only jockey when you are sat back in your box, like in this scenario where he's passing at the edge of my box, switching the ball, trying to look for the space. That's when you should be trying to jockey to intercept the ball. But when it's a counter attack and you're playing maybe a high line and your defensive line is pretty high up and an attacker is running to try and break that defensive line to receive a true ball or a pink pass, you shouldn't be jockeying there. Just run with him, full on sprint and sprint backwards. So your sprint will make that pass harder to get to him, and depending on the direction you run to, you can easily map out the run of your player, and with your sprint you can easily intercept that ball. That's why I stopped conceding most of the goals. Just by tracking runs, you've done most of the job. Then also tracking the free players in the box, that's where the jockey comes in, because sometimes when they are passing at the edge of your box, you tend to lose focus or lose track of the striker in the box that they might want to play a final pink pass to and get their shot away. So always make sure your defender is close to that attacker, so when they are playing those passes, you can just switch with the adaptive stick or whatever switching you use. At the end of the day, you can just switch to your CB and try and mark those spaces where the attacker might try to drop in to be free, because the AI movement of the attacker this year is very good. So if you are not moving your CB constantly, they would always find a good space to position themselves to receive pass, especially those with good attacking positioning. So always try and do that, and while you're doing that, then that's where you merge it with the second man press. So as you're controlling your CB, you're using the second man press for your CMs to keep the pressure on the ball carrier or the person that is going to pass that ball. So sometimes you might get lucky and the second man press might intercept the ball, or whenever they find a space to play the ball, you are already in the right position to take that ball from the attacker, because if they take a touch, you are very close to either shield them off or perform a stand tackle. So before we get to number 7, I'm going to be talking about the best defending settings for this year. I know a lot of people are asking, tactical or advanced? Honestly, this year I'm still using advanced. A lot of pros are switched to tactical because they feel it's more reliable for the stand tackle. But when you have a strong CB, like you see I'm using Konate, the shoulder challenge is still pretty helpful, and it saves you a lot of unwanted fouls being given, because when you use the shoulder challenge and you're coming from a good angle, once you contact that player, you're always pushing him off the ball, and it's an easy way to just recover the ball instead of every tackle being the stand tackle. So I still advise using the advanced defending, but if that still doesn't work for you, you can switch to the tactical. But for me, I use the advanced defending. I like my shoulder challenge to be different from my stand tackle. So for the advanced defending, the stand tackle, we already know, you use your shoot button and then you use X to seal out players. So that's an important feature for me, especially when it comes to defending in the final third. So for this year, advanced defending is still better for me. Then for number 8, always use the professional foul and slide tackles. Professional fouls are very good. Honestly, it's a great addition. They added it last year. You can intentionally foul players, especially sometimes late in the game where your opponent is free on goal and you have a player close to him but they've beaten him, you can just do a professional foul by using the finesse button, which is your R1 or RT if you're using the classic control. Then hold that with your X button, which is your button you use for passing. So that should bring the player down, and it usually comes with a guaranteed yellow card, but if it's the last man, it's going to be a red card, so know when to use it. And also I have to talk about slide tackles this year. Slide tackle this year is very good, so make sure you always try and make a slide tackle when your opponent has taken a heavy touch, or you're just sure that you're going to get that ball. Make sure you come at a good angle and perform that slide tackle. I do the slide tackle a lot of times, especially when I know if the player touched the ball is going to beat me. Just try and use the slide tackle as often as you can. You can use it both for blocking shots and also for stopping player right in their tracks. So make sure you practice using the slide tackle and get used to the positions where you should use them. Then for number 8, which is the final one, don't be too eager to intercept the ball. I know most times it might get frustrating to sit back in your box trying to move and track the attackers, but this year patience is key. If you rush the defending, or you want to quickly rush out or push your CB out of position to try and win that ball back, your player can easily just get around that defender, make a simple pass into your box, and they'll score you. So always be patient, sit in your shape, press when you need to, jockey when you need to. Like I explained, there are situations where the sprinting is better, then there are situations where the jockeying is better. So always jockey when you're already in your box. Use the speed jockey, don't use normal regular jockey, that's too slow. Always use the speed jockeying and try and predict what your opponent is going to do. Half of the defending is all about anticipation. Anticipate what your opponent is going to do and respond adequately. Go and meet him head to head in that position where he's going to. Sometimes he might want to do a fake shot or dummy you to a direction, then come inside. Always try and predict what he's going to do. Being very good at defending also translate being good at attacking. So if you attack very good, most times you'll be able to guess what your opponent is going to do and you can respond appropriately. So guys, try to be patient while defending. Wait for your opponent to make a mistake, either take a heavy touch, or while you're controlling your defender, wait for him in that box and try to see what he's going to do. If he's going to play that ping pass into the striker, you'll be there already moving your defender to block him at that position. So for a bonus tip, I'm going to be talking about goalkeeper movement. And there's nothing about defending that, no matter how good you are at defending, they will still get through your defense sometimes. Even while I defend, sometimes my goalkeeper is who bails me out. So whenever you've pressed your defender and okay, maybe they've beaten your defensive line, your last line of defense is your goalkeeper. So always try and guess where your opponent is going to finish to and move your goalkeeper beforehand. Sometimes he might want to finish to the near post and you see me, I'll move my goalkeeper there to save that ball, or better still, just leave him in a natural position. Then other times you will just know he's going to the far post, just move your goalkeeper. To move your goalkeeper, you have to hold down the R3 button and move it either left or right. Last year the goalkeepers were patched, so you can only take 2 steps to any direction. So if you move them too early, there isn't enough time to bring them back quickly. So always wait till your player enters a shooting animation, or you know for sure is going to shoot before you try and move your goalkeeper. And in case of heavy touch, you can rush out with your goalkeeper. Rushing out is very important, but you have to make sure that it's a distance you can close down. If not, they are going to chip your goalkeeper. So once the player takes a heavy touch, you can rush out with your goalkeeper to try and claim that ball before he can get his shot away. So if you don't know how to rush out, use your triangle or your Y button, which is your true pass button. Hold it and your goalkeeper will rush out to try and contest for the ball. So guys, that's basically all for this video. I hope you found it helpful, and if you did, please make sure you leave a like down below. If you have any question or any aspect of defending, you can drop in the comment section. I'll do it to respond to every comment in this video. And also, I've been making some scenario defending tutorials where I'll be explaining appropriate things to do in specific scenarios. So if you want to see that video, make sure you turn the notification bell too. So guys, thank you for watching. As always, till our next video. Cheers guys.